suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review for the new Hellraiser movie on Hulu. Now this is going to be a spoiler review, so if you don't want to know any spoilers then please don't watch the rest of the video. This is also the first Hellraiser I'm going to be reviewing. I am going to review all of the Hellraiser movies, but because this movie just came out today, I'm going to review this one first and then I'm going to review the rest of the films. I don't know if you know this guys, but most of the Hellraiser movies are not really connected to each other. Most of them have their own unique story, apart from a couple of them, which we will talk about in the future reviews. But we'll start off with the new one. The film starts off in Serbia, where we've got this woman who is exchanging money for what we think and what we assume is the box. And then it cuts to Massachusetts in America, where there's this guy called Joey who's at this party in this big mansion owned by Voit, who is one of the main characters in the film. He goes there, I think he's maybe a sex worker, which is kind of confirmed later on in the film. And this woman approaches him, who is the same woman with the box, or the puzzle box we assume, and she tells the guy to come into another room where she can meet Roland Voit. The woman then lures Joey, her name is Serena, she lures him into one of Voigt's many hallways or rooms where there's a puzzle box that's sitting there, which you probably saw in the trailer, and he just wants Joey to solve the puzzle for him so that he doesn't get taken himself. Instead of Voit, then it has to be Joey. It cuts to 6 years later where we meet Trevor and Riley. Both of them are in rehab at the moment and they're trying to get over their addictions, and she has a brother whose name is Matt, and his partner Colin as well, and you've also got another friend called Nora. So there's the kind of 5 main characters that are in and around the rest of this story, and Riley and Trevor are always up to no good, and Trevor finds out that there's this container that might have some money in it or something that they can sell. So Trevor and Riley break into this vault, and inside it is this box. Inside that is the puzzle box, and that's where it begins, and that's where Riley gets her connection to the puzzle box. Matt is always suspicious of his sister Riley, that he just decides, do you know what, enough is enough, you're getting thrown out of my apartment. And because she gets thrown out of her apartment, she doesn't really know what to do. She goes back onto the drugs and she's holding the puzzle box as well. And this is what I like about the storyline here, because we've got an addict who obviously hallucinates when she's on the drugs. So as she is hallucinating when she's on the drugs, she's also using the puzzle box. Luckily for her, the puzzle box, when she solves it, doesn't pierce her skin and it doesn't take her blood, so the Cinebites don't come for her, but she does see the Cinebites and she thinks she's possibly hallucinating. Unfortunately for her brother Matt though, he comes after her to try and see if she's okay, finds her in a hallucinative state, and he accidentally gets spiked with the puzzle box, so that means the Cinebites come after him instead of Riley. As Riley's trying to come to, and she's still kind of hallucinating, she can hear her brother Matt, but she can't find him anywhere. She hears him screaming, but he just disappears. Just like with previous Hellraiser movies, after Riley starts seeing the Cinebites, she begins to see them all the way through the film as well. So she starts doing her own investigating to find out what it is that she's seeing, and also trying to find out where her brother is. After finding out who owns the box, she goes to this home where Serena is living. Serena's the one at the beginning of the movie who purchases the box, but then Serena tells him no, it's actually Voigt's box, it's not my box. And after a little scuffle with each other, Serena accidentally gets stabbed by the puzzle box as well. And what I like about this puzzle box is every time it stabs someone, we don't find out why yet, but every time it stabs someone, the puzzle box begins to take a different shape, and we find out later on why it does that. Now in this scene when Serena is talking to Riley, Serena explains to Riley that Roland Voit saw the Cenobites, and he sees the Cenobites until he disappeared because we don't know where he is. So he's basically seeing what Riley's seeing. So obviously he didn't get stabbed, or we don't think he gets stabbed with the puzzle box, but he's trying to lure people in so he can give the Cenobites some sacrifices. After Serena got stabbed with the box, that's when the Cenobites come for her. And this is where the first time in the movie where we get a really good look at the Cenobites, because before we only saw them in the darkness or out of focus. So this is the first time where we see the Cenobites come into focus and actually speak. And I think they look tremendous, you know. With all the Hellraiser movies that we saw, which I'll mention in the future reviews, you don't really get a lot of screen time with Cenobites, but in this film, from this point on, we get a lot of screen time with them and they look magnificent. Because Voit is also presumed dead, Riley then goes to his mansion that we saw at the beginning of the film to find out what happened to him. And as she's there, we see some clippings that we saw in previous Hellraiser movies. We also see his drawings of what he saw with the Cenobites, and that's obviously what she saw as well. But we also see this book that explained a little bit more about the shapes of the puzzle, what part of the puzzle it was at. So when you see the list of things that was happening, when we first see Joey playing around with the puzzle, it was at that Leviathan stage where it's almost like Voit, for example, he's at that stage now where if somebody does the puzzle for him, he's able to how would you say it? He's able to try and get things from the Cenobites, pleasure. And that didn't quite work out for him, as we find out later on, but that's what he wanted. He wanted that puzzle to be complete, so he's got that Leviathan stage so that he can get what he wants. But at the stage that the puzzle box was at this moment in time, it was at what we can see from the book as the resurrection stage. It's something that we haven't seen, or that I haven't seen in the Hellraiser movies before. That kind of, it's a cool concept of the box not just being this cube, but being all different shapes and sizes, so that we know that there's different stages to it. From that point on, we get the idea that Riley maybe has the same idea now, because she wants to get Matt back. Maybe if she does what Voit does, then she could potentially get her brother back. Their friend Nora ends up behind the walls in this big mansion, and at this point the box disappears. It seems like someone's helping someone retrieve the box, and someone's inside the walls, and it is Voit that's hiding behind the walls. So he didn't get what he wanted 6 years ago, so something actually happened that he didn't want to happen. So he stabs Nora in the back with the puzzle, and then that starts the beginning of the end of between the resurrection and the Leviathan stage again. This was another really cool scene when Nora's getting taken out of the mansion into the van, and as they're driving off, only Nora can see what's happening when she gets taken by the Cenobites. Riley can also see it in the wing mirror, or the mirror, because she's obviously still got that hallucination stage where she's not been obviously stabbed, but she can see what's happening. Really cool practical effects happening there. I love the sound, not the sound, I love the kind of stage design that they used throughout this, and this scene with Nora was one of the best. During this part of the movie, Pinhead kind of corners Riley into making a decision, because Pinhead stabs Riley with the puzzle, so she could be next, but she decides, or Pinhead decides, I'm not going to take you, but if you can give me 2 more souls, then you'll get what we want, and we'll also get what we want. Later on, and as suspected from the very beginning, we find out that Trevor was helping Voit all this time, and he was just infiltrating Riley just to do what Voit really wanted them to do. I didn't really see the need for them to do that. They could have just kept Trevor as a good guy, but I didn't really see the need for them to decide he was helping Voit get someone to use the box, because anybody could have used the box. And the way that they'd done it, they didn't need Trevor to be a mole in the film. That was probably my only issue with the storyline, with Trevor becoming one of the bad guys. Now, something that was quite interesting, and I thought about this before it happened, when Pinhead said, bring me 2 more, Riley stabs one of the Cenobites with the puzzle box, and I said to myself, wonder what would happen if she stabbed the Cenobite. Surely nothing would happen, because the Cenobite has already been taken at some point. But it worked. That was one of the souls, or one of the things that the Pinhead accepted as being one of the 2. Unfortunately, at one stage, Colin was also stabbed by Voit with the puzzle box, so he was going to be the last victim. However, because Riley still had some of that power, she said to the Cinebites, well, it's my choice. I've decided for you to save Colin and take Trevor instead. So Trevor was that last being for the Leviathan stage. Voigt's request when he created this part at the beginning was he wanted to get endless pleasure, but what he didn't know was the Cinebites, it could have been a bit of manipulation, but the Cenobites gave him what he wanted, but they gave him it in what they would see as being pleasure, and that is basically a lifetime of pain for Voit, and he wanted that pain to end. And after the pain did end and he got all this metal stuff taken out of him, he thought that was it, he was fine, but then he was taken away. And they gave the same option to Riley after everything was done. They said to her, no, it's your choice now, what would you like? Do you want your brother back? And she thought, well, you've tricked Voit into doing what he wanted, or what he thought he wanted. So she thought, well, the same might happen to me. So she didn't take that chance. So the Cenobites said, well, that's fine. You're not going to get anything, but that means you're going to live a life of regret, because you might have been able to get your brother back, but you decided not to, and that's something that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. At the very end, in true Hellraiser fashion, we get a really good practical effect, or it looks like practical effects anyway, of Roland being taken apart and made to look like one of the Cenobites. Really disgusting, but really well done. So for a Hellraiser movie that comes out in 2022, you would expect a lot more CGI than practical effects, and I'm sure there was a lot of CGI, but there was also a lot of practical effects, and all the practical effects that I saw were fantastic. And if any of those practical effects end up turning out to be CGI, then that means that the CGI was also fantastic. However, I think more practical effects were used in this film than I thought would have been used, but it was all great. Looking at the acting in this film, for a film that doesn't look like a massive big budget Hollywood film, I think the acting was decent. You know, there's nobody that was, you know, bad. I think whether they were a good character or a bad character, I was still invested in them to find out what they were doing. Like Trevor, for example, when we found out he was a bad guy, I still kind of wanted him to live because he was a good character. So the character development was great. Like I mentioned, guys, the set design was fantastic. When the Cenobites were coming to take whoever was getting stabbed by the box, the way they moved the walls, etc., just reminded me of the original film. And it didn't look out of place. It looked great. It was obviously CGI in most of the parts, but it didn't look out of place at all. It was great with how they'd done it. Also, the sound design was great when the Cenobites were coming out. Even the music, the score, everything. I think it set the mood for all of the movie. And let's not forget about the Cenobites. The Cenobites are probably the best they've ever been, and I'm including the original in this one. The Cenobites look frightening. Their skin that was hanging off, just the design of all of the Cenobites was a step above every other Hellraiser movie, and that includes the original. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the original movie. The original movie was good, and I'm not saying that this one is better than the original film yet, but I think the look of this one, the look of the Cenobites, was just a lot better than the original movie. Now, when it comes to the priest, that's what Jamie Clayton is called in this one. She's not called Pinhead, she's not called Hell Priest, it's just the priest. The look of this Pinhead was great as well. The sound of Pinhead was great. We're always going to compare the original Pinhead to this Pinhead, and it's hard to say who's better because they are both different and they both act different in each of the films. I think Doug Bradley was good for his version of Pinhead in the original, whereas Jamie Clayton was also equally as good as her version of Pinhead in this Hellraiser movie. At the end of the day, even though everything was a step up in every aspect of this film from what we saw in the previous movies, or most of the previous movies, I still felt like there was something missing. It wasn't the perfect Hellraiser movie, it wasn't a fantastic film, it just felt like there was something missing. Maybe it was just the look of the film. It maybe looked a little bit too, I don't know, Eastern European. I don't know how to explain it. I think it was filmed in Eastern Europe. When you saw the credits roll, all the Serbian names that were coming up, so obviously it was mostly made by Eastern European people, I think, but it just felt like it had that Eastern European look to it. That's obviously not a valid reason to hate the film or anything. I'm just trying to put my finger on what it was that was missing from it. It was a 2-hour movie as well, so it was quite long. It didn't drag, but maybe there was possibly too much in it. maybe it was the finale. You know, the finale did feel like it was very long, but sometimes it was necessary because we got a lot of the Cenobites in this one, and that's what I wanted to see, more Cenobites, because in the other films that you see in my reviews, you don't get a lot of the Cenobite interaction, whereas in this one you do. So maybe the 2-hour runtime was necessary. Overall though, guys, I really liked it. I really liked the priest. I really liked the setting. I liked most things about this film, and it was head and shoulders above the drivel that we got before it. So in terms of any Hellraiser movies, this is one of the best, if not the best Hellraiser movie. Obviously time will tell. I'm going to be making sure that I've got the list at hand, and I've really got it nailed down with my rankings. I'm going to do a ranking for them all after I've done the review for them all. But so far, this one is one of the top movies, and it's not going to be hard to do with the Hellraiser franchise, but it is a really enjoyable Hellraiser movie. Whether you're a fan of Hellraiser or not, I think, especially around Halloween time, I think most people will enjoy this film. Anyway guys, so if you've seen the new Hellraiser movie, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of it, and also let me know what you think of the priest in this one. Do you think the priest in this one was better than Pinhead in the original movie? Let me know. As always guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.